Be prepared for something new. Everyone is different. So are you. Stay straight. No masquerades. Do things that you'll remember. You can push too far, but stay fair. Stay on track. Give it your all. Get to the bottom of things. Decide what's right. Don't believe in what the others do. Find it out for yourself. Be close to it all. Bring your heart along. Follow your goals. Reach for the stars. Turn the weekend into the loudest party of your life. Are you prepared?
Here we are then. It is the final showdown in terms of qualifying. It's going to set the grid for race 18, the final race of the year, and the DTM champion for 2017 will be crowned. Going into this race, this is such an important qualifying session. Alongside me is Alex Torrell. The pressure on the drivers to post a decent lap time and put themselves as far up the grid as possible will really have an effect on how the championship plays out.
Yeah, it is extremely important. We have 3, 2, and 1 points to award to the P1, P2, and P3 drivers. This today can be a really big difference. We see the man now on the screen, Matthias Ekstrom, who will have a 5-grid penalty due to 3 warnings regarding driving standards from yesterday's race.
So even if Matthias Ekstrom posts a qualifying time which is good enough to give him pole position, it's going to be a P5 start, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. When we see now this man, René Rast, is the one which at the moment theoretically has the best possible spot to win the championship. He has no penalty because we will see Jamie Green also is a contender for the championship, just sitting on his right side, and he has a 10 grid drop penalty.
This is all by the totting up procedure, isn't it? Of
exactly.
Warnings over the course of the season.
So if now René Rast managed to get in the top 3, he will be getting those points. We could have a really high value later on the race.
Absolutely, 3 points could mean more than a little, couldn't it? Mike Rockenfeller, of course, we saw in yesterday's race. My goodness, he had some pace. And you know, Mike Rockenfeller is not out of this either. One thing we do know, of course, in terms of the championship, is it's going to go to the Audi brand, isn't it?
Yeah, it was quite secure that yesterday the championship is going towards Audi. When we see now the free practice classification.
And again, Mike Rockenfeller, look, he was fastest, 1:31.269. Then it was Robert Wickens, Nico Muller, Gary Pavitt, Marco Wittmann, Maro Engel. Then René Rast and Matthias Ekstrom were P7 and P8. And Jamie Green, who, of course, was so dominant in the race yesterday, taking the race win, he hampered in this qualifying session, whichever way you look at it, by that 10-place grid drop.
Yeah, exactly. This will play a big difference. This will make a big difference now. So Jamie Green, to be able to have a chance, he needs to qualify really high, that in terms when he gets this 10 drop grid penalty, he can be still in the top 10 if he's on pole, or for example P11 or P12. So this will play a lot against him. So let's see what all these 4 men are doing, the four Audi drivers.
Well, the 2 that are not hampered by those grid drops, as you have said, René Rast and Mike Rockenfeller. There's Jamie Green then, awaiting release from his garage and to get this qualifying session underway. 20 minutes will go on the clock for qualifying, and we're about 10 seconds away from the lights going green at the end of the pit lane to get a very crucial qualifying session underway. Look at all the Mercedes cars lined up, ready to get out there and go for qualifying. Lucas Ayer, Eduardo Mortara, Robert Wickens, they're all on their way out on track now. So there is the Jamie Green Audi. As I said, he took the win yesterday from Mike Rockenfeller, P2, and P3 going the way, of course, of the BMW driver Timo Glock. There is Matthias Ekström. So, Alex, the strategy for qualifying generally, if it follows the form that we've seen all season long, the drivers will go out early on. They will then come back in, change tyres, and then the final runs will come towards the end of the session, which always surprises me because, of course, at the end of the session is when the track is at its busiest.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen this situation happening all the way through the year. So drivers will go now for a first attempt on new tires. Then around when we have around 9 minutes to go, 8.5 minutes to go, drivers will be coming again, go for a second set of new tires, and go straight back to the racetrack. So as you were saying, at the moment at the end of when we have 1.5, 2 minutes to go, the track is at its busiest, so it's really important to find a place. We also had some incidents yesterday and the investigation for drivers blocking another driver, so
yes,
for sure we will, they have to keep an eye, but it's really crucial moment for later on the race.
So we're on board with Rennie Rast then as he makes his way down the pit lane. He's really pummeling the throttle and pummeling the brake pedal at the same time, and presumably that's to try and generate some warmth.
Yeah, exactly. It's really important this season, as we already know, no tires heaters, so tires are going cold on the racetrack, so drivers has to do all their maximum effort to warm up those tires. They are new tires, so new tires that also have like a special first layer that is really shiny, really polished, but it's really slippery.
Right.
So you need to try to get this layer out as soon as possible. And as you say, drivers, how you warm up the tires is throttle and braking really hard, that the brake discs get hot, and this heat goes into the wheel, and
yes,
this heat warm ups the air inside the tire, and it is warming also the rubber. So this is a little bit the procedure, and then you help a little bit with waving, so making those externals layer of the tire work on the tarmac.
So as we can see, exactly as you're saying, there's Mike Rockenfeller is weaving from side to side, and they're actually really aggressive on the pedals, aren't they, in terms of generating. And you make the point, of course, the wheels dissipate the heat into the heat coming from the brakes. That heat energy is dissipated through the rims into the tires to try and generate the temperature that is critical into the tires. And one of the changes that's been made to DTM this year is no tire warmers. And that has made a big difference. We've seen that huge difference that's made during the mandatory pit stop when the cars come in for fresh tires in the race, and they return out on track on cold tires. And the temperature difference between tires that are up to operating temperature and cold tires that have been put on, it really makes you vulnerable, doesn't it, when you're returning onto the track?
For sure, Dave. We were watching on the picture Matthias Ekström, especially now on the qualifying, is not so bad because they have time to warm up the tires. They can settle their position and then go for a quick lap. But later on the race, when they come into the box, they change the tires and they go out. They need to be as fast as possible on the racetrack because every second is important. So they go out really quick. And as I was saying, Matthias Ekström, before on the picture, we have all the image and Sandvor going straight into corner one in the gravel, just out of the pit lane with cold tires, and then spanning due to hit the gravel in corner before corner number 4. So, as you said, really important. When we see Edo Mortara coming from the front of the pit lane back into his box, so maybe some trouble for the Italian driver.
He's been out on track, hasn't he? Because he was one of the first in the queue. So Mortara has been out on track. We're on board with Jamie Green now, who's also weaving from side to side. First time has been set. It's been set by Loic Duval. Now, Jamie Green is just adjusting that lever in the middle of the cockpit. That adjusts the brake bias. And that is the braking energy from front to back, isn't it?
Exactly. This car has the engine in the front. They are quite light in the rear. So brake bars is also, as you were saying, we use a lot the brake to warm up the tires. So you also use the brake bars to warm up the tires. How? You, for example, it's easier with these rear-wheel drive cars to warm up the rear tire while making wheel spin, but front tires you sometimes struggle to warm them up. Like now we see, for example, Mike Rockenfeller waving left, right. So you put some more bars, more brake pressure into the front, that you can warm up more the rear wheels, and then when you feel it's okay, then you go back towards your standard brake balance.
So Matthias Ekström we go on board with right now. And Loic Duval, a 138.714. It looks like he's got Maxime Martin or Tom Blomqvist ahead of him here on the Parabolica. It is Maxime Martin. And there, Matthias Ekstrom making adjustments to that brake bias as we speak.
The boys are going to check the prop traffic then.
Heads up towards the hairpin now. René Rast has gone fastest with a 1:36.634. Bear in mind that whatever time Matthias Ekstrom posts, he is going to get a 5-place grid drop. We're on board with Timo Glock now, the BMW driver yesterday who was successful because he was on the podium taking P3. Timo Glock has done a 20-second dead in the first sector, which was personal best. Better than everyone through sector 2. And Timo Glock now goes fastest with a 1:31.552. Now the margin there, 2.289 seconds quicker than anybody else. Of course, you know, the lap times do come tumbling down as the session goes on and on and on.
Exactly. We see now already really good first sector from René Rast, 19.727. Quick as yesterday was Jamie Green with a 19.558, if I remember well. So already quite close to the top times. Sector 2 quite good. We saw already yesterday some 43.0, so missing their 2/10. But for sure will be a really quick lap time from René Rast. Looking at the screen also, Marco Wittmann coming also really good on sector number 2.
So at the moment then it's Marco Wittmann now who posts the fastest time with a 1:30.821. René Rast is P2. Here comes Jamie Green. He's done personal best through sector 1 and sector 2, and he goes from P15 to P3 with a 1:31.434. So the two drivers that are sub 1:31 are Marco Wittmann and René Rast. We're on board now with Matthias Ekstrom, going for a real run this time.
Really good sector 1 of Matthias Ekstrom.
Yes.
Really close to the overall best, which is now done by Tom Blomqvist, 19.637.
Here comes Matthias Ekstrom then.
Losing a little bit in sector 2, Matthias.
So around this banked corner, where he goes up high and wide and takes a little bit of the runoff area. And now Lucas Auer, thanks Alex, has gone P2 with a 1:30.829. Here comes Matthias Ekstrom. He's currently 10th fastest, and Matthias Ekstrom breaks the beam now. And he now goes 5th fastest, which if it stayed that way, Alex, 5th fastest would mean P10 on the grid for Matthias.
Yeah, exactly. This, like we were saying, we always need to add 5 positions to Matthias and 10 positions to Jamie Green. When we see now René Rast with a really good sector 1, sector 2 quite okay, not as fast as one on racetrack. Let's see what he can do on sector number 3.
Well, he goes 2nd fastest, doesn't he?
He goes 2nd faster, almost matching the time of Marco Wittmann.
Jamie Green then with PBs, sector 1, sector 2 and sector 3, but it's only P8. And generally speaking, to see a time that's going to take you to the top of the chart, you've got to have a purple sector in there somewhere, haven't you?
Exactly. You need to at least in one of the sector be purple or have really close green sectors to be able to be in the top 3. When we see all the times now getting really, we see
problems for Paul di Resta.
Yeah. Something is ramming on the ground. Oh, looks like a flat tire, front left tire.
Yeah, so the car
was touching.
Has come down, so Paul di Resta will nurse that car back into the...
Anyway, all the drivers are coming out into the box. No further improvement from any of them. When we see now, was into corner number 1. So, looks like no contact from his side.
It's...
Yeah, maybe you're right.
I'm just looking at the panel work there.
The panel work, it doesn't look all right. So maybe some...
And that tyre doesn't look like it's deflating, does it?
No, it doesn't look like it. Just looks like the front side pod drops into the ground. But the tires is like fully... So it looks strange. Let's see when he pits, if we can see the better...
Well, we've got the session. The session has been red flagged.
Oh.
The session has been red flagged then.
So at the moment it's pretty much everyone on the pit lane.
So we have Wittmann in 30.5, then Rast P2 in 30.59, Blomqvist P3 in 30.76, Awa 30.82, Martin 30.86, and you're in P6.
So the
Radio.
live team radio, totally live. Unlike other racing series in the DTM, we bring you the team radio absolutely live as the René Rast car is pushed back into the garage. Then the session has been suspended, red flagged, with 10 minutes remaining.
It's everyone on the pit now except Robert Wickens,
who is rounding the final turn now, I can see from the corner of my eye. So we'll dive into the pit lane, presumably. Yes.
We need to check why we have a red flag, maybe some debris on the racetrack or something that maybe caused the issue into Paul di Resta car.
It's certainly got to be connected to that issue, hasn't it?
You know what it can be? It's not an animal or something like a bunny or something with that crossed the racetrack.
There you can see.
Yeah, looks like... Ah, it's a drain.
It's a drain cover.
It's a drain cover that came off the racetrack. There we see it's a first thing was Gary Puffett. Look,
yes.
Look at that.
Well,
this is a big...
we've got to the bottom of it now, haven't we?
It's Gary Puffett ran over it first, and then it was Paul di Resta who took the big part of it. Luckily, not like last week, 2 weeks ago in Formula 1 when something similar happened with Nico Hülkenberg.
You're right.
But he had a big
Grosjean.
Yeah, but he had a big crash. So luckily, it's just a small situation.
And yes, it was in qualifying with Grosjean, wasn't it?
Grosjean, not Hülkenberg. Excuse me. You're right. You're right.
But to be fair, Alex, that is not going to be the work of a moment to put that right, is it?
This will take. They will need to bring probably new concrete or a new drain or. This might get a little bit time that we will get this repaired.
Well, at last, and at least we've seen the reason why.
Replay. This is Gary Puffett that runs over that edge, pulls that drain out, and then it's Paul di Resta coming just straight behind that takes the bed.
And there you can see that there the cover is right to the bottom right hand.
And then you see
the
the Resta Rhine all over.
Yeah.
And
that immediately caused the problems to the car, didn't it?
Yep.
Well, at least we've been able to answer the question as to why Paul di Resta.
I was thinking for a second some sort of animal or yesterday, because yesterday we saw some bunnies crossing the racetrack, so it's maybe he picked that one, and but this is a bigger of an issue, so we see now. So Germany is well known for roadworks, so we'll have another one here on the racetrack.
Well, of course, this is really unsettling.
Of course, we had a flat tire.
Yes, but actually, when you and I first looked at that tire was not fully deflated. It was clearly deflating. The bodywork was already rubbing on the tarmac, wasn't it? Before the it's at this point that we saw it, and if you look there, as you made the point, at that point the tire is still fully inflated.
Exactly. But what a situation. Imagine this would have happened to René Rast or Rockefeller or Jamie Green or any of the driver which is playing for the championship. It would be a totally disaster.
Well,
so I guess it might be a quick repair. Oh, we see garage door, it's shut down. So now it's time on the red flag for the mechanics to try to repair Paul di Resta car to see if he can manage to rejoin the qualifying when we get a ring flat.
Neither you nor I know what damage has been caused to the underneath of that car, because that drain cover is going to be metal, isn't it? It's not going to be some
This is like
cover.
a knife.
Yeah.
I've seen previously also in GT what a drain does. I saw a car cut into 2 pieces because of a drain.
Well, and, you know, more critically, I think, is that I don't believe that will be repaired very quickly, because that has got the integrity of that whole drain has got to be repaired before we can get the qualifying session back underway again. Yeah, exactly. We need to see. I mean, I see marshals on the racetrack at the moment. Some small track with roadworks free from our commentary booth. So yes, I don't know if they manage to cover this with concrete or they will replace just the drain.
we cannot see. We don't have an image to see how.
When we looked at
damaged.
those images, it did look like the almost the foundation that the drain would sit in. It looked like that had been damaged. Perhaps had weakened, which had made that drain cover loose. And as you say, it was just it being crossed by, I think it was the Gary Paffett Mercedes car, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It just
so let's see if it's just they just can weld the drain onto the rest, or this maybe also, like you say, the basement or the where the drain is screwed and welded into the ground. It's broken. Then it's a major issue. So we will keep watching our time screen for further news and images when we see some slow-mos from this first part of the session.
So Wolfgang Ullrich then, of course, he's the head of DTM now is Dieter Gas, but Wolfgang Ullrich still taking a very, very keen interest. And of course, from an Audi perspective, they know that they're going to have the champion come the end of the season. But this is drama as more trucks run to the scene of that drain cover. There's Matthias Ekstrom. Alongside him, of course, is the car of Nico Müller. And there's Wolfgang Ullrich then taking a look across the pit wall at the work going on. And the work will have to go on. And, well, we could see in the garages of the HWA team of Paul Duresta, the garage door had been closed, Alex. So presumably quite a lot of work for them to do.
So we see some circuit workers. We see
Uli Fritz there from Mercedes-Benz. So his team's, of course, the ones with work to do. And just wonder, as that was lifted up, do you think that would have damaged, as Pascal Wehrlein is here looking on, would that have damaged the Paffett car as well, potentially, Alex?
Maybe also some small damage for sure. We cannot see it now at the moment. We see Pascal Wehrlein saying hi to the camera. So they seems pretty relaxed. So Paul Duresta walking now. So probably means the session is over for him. Let's see if the car, like I was saying, I saw a GT car cut in 2 pieces through the middle because of a drain. The whole metal.
Really?
This is the whole floor, everything cut into 2 because the drain was sticking on the ground and it's like a knife. So let's see how everything develops. Especially also the roadworks, if we can get the session undergoing again.
And the thing is, it's quite a tight timetable here. The race is due to start sort of middle of the afternoon this afternoon, and we are expecting, of course, the as you mentioned, the Audi TT Cup Race of Legends out on track. Well, clearly that's now going to be delayed, and also the show run from the Super GT cars that are here this weekend as well.
Ooh, we see now. Well, that's how we repair rain on the racetrack with...
I'm sorry to say, Alex, I don't think this is going to be the work of a moment.
I think it will take. I mean, if you pour concrete, you will need to wait till it dries. Yeah, we see them throwing some stones, trying to cover.
So Wolfgang Ullrich then looking on at the work continuing. Well, as the session was brought to a red flag, it was Marco Wittmann the quickest, René Rast was P2, Tom Blomqvist was P3, Lucas Auer was P4, then it was Maxime Martin, and that man, Mike Rockenfeller, ahead of Matthias Ekstrom. That man, as we said, Matthias Ekstrom then P7, which actually means P12 on the grid because of his 5-place grid drop. Jamie Green, who was 9th fastest, has got a 10-place grid drop. So that will be Jamie Green really suffering at the hands of this totting up procedure, which is brought about by, it's due to warnings that you've had during the course of the season, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's on the rules that when you have 3 warnings, you get a 5-drop so 5 grid penalty. So this means the penalty that Matthias Ekström has, and then when you have 5 warnings, it's a 10 positions grid penalty. And this is
presumably the last of those warnings for Jamie Green was actually from qualifying yesterday. Verena is with Jamie Green right now. Let's hear from him. Well, doubtless we will catch up with Jamie Green at some point as we take a look at the replays here of René Rast then, who is currently 2nd fastest. Marco Wittmann is right at the top of the chart with a 130.564. So Wittmann, Rast, Blomqvist, the 1, 2, 3. We're looking at some super slow-mos of the Matthias Ekström car now. Of course, Matthias Ekström in a very, very strong position in terms of the Drivers' Championship. It's all going to be sealed in the last race of the season, which is, from our point of view, the drama that we like, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's perfect for us to have all of this when we see Rocky just jump out of the car, relaxing a little bit and trying to focus into this qualifying. The good thing and the bad thing for Mercedes, bad thing is they lost probably Paul Di Resta car. The good thing is give us some more time for Mortara to repair whatever it's the issue he has on his car.
Do you really think that the Di Resta car might be irreparable?
I don't know. I don't think I think they will repair for the race, but maybe it's not so quick repair for qualifying session. It depends how long it takes the red flag. I'm sure mechanics are giving everything they can in the HWA garage. That's why I guess it's also completely closed. But as we saw Paul Di Resta walking through the pit lane,
yes, we did.
That might mean that the car has a bigger damage that we could see from here or from our screen. Matthias Ekström putting his helmet on earlier before.
So then the team are working hard on trying to repair the damaged drain cover then and get this session back underway again. Huge crowd here to enjoy the DTM race weekend and the last race weekend of the season for the season 2017. A huge audience here.
Really well packed. You see all the grandstands and you cannot walk through the paddock.
No,
it's impossible. It's
absolutely packed, isn't it?
It's really a lot of people, but it's what we want. It's part of the thanks to the show we have this year. We get again image of this
work continuing. Although there seems, as is often the case with roadworks, there seems to be we're being told that they're going to wait 10 minutes to see if it dries, and if it does dry, they'll continue with qualifying. If not, we're going to take what we've got in terms of qualifying, which would be advantage René Rast, that's for sure. And there we can see again, that was it being loosened, and then it was left rattling on the side of the track, and it was now as Paul Di Resta approached it, that was when the damage was done.
Yeah, it's good to see they didn't end up in a worse situation or crash.
And there you can see the damage to the Paul Di Resta car.
So good that as I was saying, the car is, has a damage probably we cannot see now, or a bigger damage, but good to see they didn't have a bigger accident or a bigger issue for Paul Di Resta, and he managed to bring it back to the pits. As we just stand up on a commentary booth, we can have a little bit view on the racetrack to see they're still discussing and repairing about the drain. So as Dave said, when we watch Mortara also working on the pit lane, we will wait in 10 minutes to see if the concrete dries, and crowd and grandstands fully packed. DTM, amazing weather we had here this weekend. Yesterday, sunshine, blue skies. Today, same situation, even a little bit warmer temperature. Wolfgang Ullrich keeping focus on what's going on at the end of this straight. Another worker coming with probably extra concrete to fill that hole. As we were talking already before, it's not a 2 minutes work. It will take some time to repair this, and especially, as always, safety is a big point, and it has to be safe for all the drivers and for the cars to be able to drive on the racetrack, and this is a priority at the moment. So as far as it's not safe, race will not, or excuse me, qualifying will not resume. René Rast looking as well, expectating. As a race driver, I can say this is a really, I would say, annoying situation and desperate situation. You are into qualifying, you are into the rhythm of the qualifying, you're trying to make some fast laps, and then you come in for your driver tire change, and they tell you, no, it's a red flag situation, just need to wait. Now we see on just on the backside of this mechanic, these windows that we have. One of also the things DTM make for this season to make the fans come closer to the action. There is every 4 garages more or less. It's a window where the fans can watch through and see what's going on the garage, which work are the teams doing, and we could see sometimes even on the paddock a huge queue of people just trying to get into these spectators' boxes. And we see Paul Di Resta discussing with and having a privileged view and what's happening on the racetrack. So safety car coming by now. So definitely DTM did a step forward this season into bringing all the action closer to the spectators. With these new boxes, new events. Also we have a really new food village, and with street food, big area where you can relax, chill between the races, between the action, and get some refreshment. We see Dieter Gas. We're having some chat yesterday. He's a happy boy with Audi title, but as always, spectator to see which one of his drivers is taking the championship. Also Ernst Mosa, team manager of Phoenix, was also really happy with the performance of Mike Rockenfeller yesterday. Was coming blistering with a high speed in the second last part of the race. Paul Di Resta talking to Ullrich, Mercedes Motorsport AMG manager. And as I said, they have a privileged view into what's going on into first corner. René Rast, Jamie Green, Team Rosberg, both contenders for this DTM 2017 driver's title. So, what do you think, Dave? What's your prognosis? Do you think is your heart going more towards one direction or other?
No, of course, I'm completely unbiased, aren't I? As you would expect, but
I guess you're going for the British British side.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I have to say,
you're always so correct.
Well, I don't know about that. The discussion that will have been going on between Uli Fritz and Paul Di Resta would have been a difficult one, wouldn't it? Because there's nothing Paul Di Resta can do, is there?
No, and especially this corner, I know, and this is really, really hard because DTM, as we know, it's so tight, so close together. They go for every millimeter on the racetrack. Can be important. It can make a difference. So you are looking at that corner. We see now the workers putting the sand and the stones inside to cover that hole. It's a big hole. Look, it's even tarmac missing on the
Alex,
right side.
that was the point I was making when I said I don't think this is going to be the work of a moment, because there is so much. There is so much to be done there. It looks like the foundations of where the drain sits are broken.
Yeah. So
as you and I both know, not that we're road workers, but we both know, you know, that you can't just make concrete work, can you?
No, you cannot make it right in 2 seconds. It will take a while till it sits down and dries. So
Well, they're the Renault Rast car and the Jamie Green car, as you say, both contenders. And you can't help but feel a little bit sorry for the tens of thousands of spectators here. But, of course, they were looking forward to this qualifying session. And if the qualifying session gets curtailed, and it sits where it sits at the moment, you've got to say it's advantage René Rast, isn't it? Who is P2 at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. It's playing on the hands of René Rast. I think we will have a second part of qualifying. Will be really interesting too, but as you said, it's everything wide open. We need to wait for that drain. It's now workers are now valving the hole. So let's cross our finger it dries quick and we can get this session undergoing again. Well, we see it's Rockenfeld. No, I think it's
Nico Müller, wasn't it?
Yeah. The Playboy advertisement on his shoulder. And Matthias is sitting on the car. You see again another slow-mo from Matthias Ekström.
And you also have to feel for those guys that are perhaps doing the repair work, because there will be enormous pressure on them, won't there?
Yeah.
You know, you've got to fix this. You've got to fix it now. Jamie Green then, who is... he's one of the drivers that's remained in his car for the moment.
But I think it's coming out.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Putting its earplugs out, switching off the radio belts up.
I wonder if that's because he knows more than we do.
Probably. It can be that the teams have radio connection between race control, so he might maybe know it will take longer than expected, or the session will not be restarted. I'm still looking really focused on our time screen information. Drivers are allowed to leave the cars.
Right, so that is what prompted Jamie Green.
But anyway, this came maybe a little bit later, the information on time screen, because we saw already Rocky was out of the car.
Right. Yes,
the Resta, Mortara was also out of the car. So, yeah, but it's not good news, because if the drivers are allowed to leave the cars, they know it will take at least another 10 minutes till we can get this session going on again.
Well, you know, we have local time here now, Alex, 12:32. Local time 12:45 was the Audi TT Cup Race of Legends, and there are some legends in that race, including the likes of Tom Christensen, and great to see former DTM star Rahul Frey back out on track here at Hockenheim, as she was just a couple of weeks ago, of course, in the GT Masters, but she's going to be in that Race of Legends as well. So what I'm trying to say is that was supposed to be on track in less than 15 minutes from now. The session was stopped with 10 minutes remaining. What can, you know...
We're still open, just don't forget the legends will be commentating the race.
Well, that's very generous of you to say that. Not entirely sure that many people would agree, but well, Mike Rockenfeller there we can see.
Then I was talking before, as you know, as you were saying, the fans here waiting. But it's so good that we was watching on the right side this glass window where fans can go into the box and see what's the action is going inside. It's playing a lot into bringing DTM closer to the people. And also this food village we have on the paddock is amazing.
There have been, in my opinion, so many improvements to DTM this year. The best of them all is getting rid of those blasted performance weights. I'm sorry, never agreed with it. Never agreed with it. But yes, the positives that we can take out of this season are actually, I think the loss of tyre warmers has been a good thing because it's opened it up.
Exactly.
Number two, I also think that this Indianapolis-style restart from a safety car has really, really been good and has thrown into the entertainment value, if you like, of DTM. And then, as you say, actually off the track, there have been a number of improvements as well, because you're quite right that every manufacturer now has to have what's effectively an open garage, so that the fans can go and see and get close to those engineers working on those cars. There is in the paddock, as you say, this all-new and very, very vibrant food village, or food villages, because there are a number of them in the paddock. So, yeah, I think from a showbiz perspective, Whether it's Gerhard Berger at the top or whether it's his team or whatever, I think there have been a lot of good things.
Yeah, it's been really amazing season, and then you see you are on the last race. Not only 1 or 2 drivers deciding the title; it's 4 drivers deciding the title. And talking more about the technical side.
Yes.
And this is playing, and we had a lot of winners, a lot of different races. This has been an amazing season where you have so much going on. And really good races and everything close, and a lot of mix between manufacturers, 1, 2, 3 different manufacturers, and there's not been in the whole season a predominant manufacturer. So I think this has been a really good to play into the play in the hands of the action and for the fans.
Right. Yes, and I agree with that. And I think, sorry, this is me getting on my high horse here. If we had have got rid of the performance weights earlier in the season, I think it might have been a slightly different number of drivers that were vying potentially for the championship towards the end of the year.
Yeah, probably, but it's what would have happened. So now we are on the present. We see now Jamie Green.
Yes,
no, it's Lucas Hours.
You didn't want to have that argument with me on air, did you?
No, but
you're right.
At some point, yeah, in some races it was penalizing drivers which are performing better on that racetrack. On some other races were playing more in the hands to have a mixed various manufacturer winning on the same weekend. So it's like always has its positive and its negatives.
One thing we do know, and that you will agree with me, I am sure, is that, you know, we will look, and this has been the case every DTM race weekend. You look at the race 1 on the Saturday and think, right, well, we've got a form guide for what's going to happen on race 2. Certainly hasn't been the case, has it? It's been really mixed and jumbled.
Yeah, it's been really mixed. We had Greece, where I remember I think we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and or every different manufacturer from 1 to 6, all mixed up. We still see it. I mean, we are in the first half of the qualifying where we have P1 is Marco Wittmann with BMW, then we have Audi, then we have BMW, then it's Mercedes, then it's BMW again. So you see a little bit of a mix with the manufacturer. It's not always the same. So here they are looking if it's dry. Looks like yes. Step in. Yeah, looks pretty consistent.
Trouble is that those people, they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't, really, aren't they? Because, as you said, every driver uses every millimetre of track. I just wonder if this is going to be vulnerable across the weekend, or across the race. Yeah.
I mean, I guess there will be. We have afterwards some, I think, track time stop. So maybe they will check again if everything is on place. But I mean, no one else is on the track, so drivers are allowed to drink. So
oh, that's nice.
They can start asking for vodka martini or whatever.
No, I don't think that's the case.
No. Just still water, please.
Yes.
So, yeah, but that means they clear the track, so no one else is there. The good thing is sun and good temperature, so I guess this will help.
Certainly help with the curing and drying of it. Yes,
of the concrete.
Norbert Haug there, now, of course, where once was head of Mercedes-Benz Motorsport, now his profession is holding a microphone. And Norbert Haug then very much still involved, but in a completely different way to years gone by.
So we see restart will be in about 7 minutes at 12:45. So we will have another half of qualifying, so I guess everyone will put new tires and go for the last few minutes. I don't think someone will be able to put after 2 shots.
No, this is going to ramp up the pressure, isn't it? It's going to make what is ordinarily a very exciting second half of qualifying even more exciting now. That's for sure.
So confirmation on our screen. Qualifying will be resumed at 12:45.
And there is Matthias Ekström, who currently is 7th fastest, which, as I said, means P12 on the grid because he has a 5-place grid drop. There is René Rast, who is, at the moment, with a 1:30.594. P2. Marco Wittmann, the BMW driver, is the quickest. It's, Nico Müller then going through some warm-up routines before getting into the car, keep the joints supple.
time difference between Marco Wittmann and René Rast is nothing. It's 30 thousandths of a second. It's
that's how close DTM is and has been all season long, hasn't it? The margins between drivers and between cars during qualifying has always been tiny, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's always not. I mean, the clap of a finger. It's more than that. So it's unbelievable how close the drivers are. When we see now, big repairs going on Edo Mortara car. So it looks like he had a bigger problem. It's like a gearbox or.
Well, isn't it interesting? We saw him go out, didn't we?
Yeah, and it came in.
And he came straight in, and we saw the car being pushed back, didn't we?
So I mean, it's not. This car has nothing to do with the drain situation. So maybe, but I mean, looking that repair, everyone down on the car, maybe it looks more like a drain. A gearbox problem. When we see Mike Rockefeller putting his gloves on, having some jogs with mechanics before jumping in the car.
So Jamie Green then. And we are now just 4 minutes away from the session resuming and the second half of qualifying getting underway. We had clock was stopped at 10 minutes 21 seconds remaining. Restart then at 12:45 local time, which, as I say, is just under 4 minutes away, and it will be a real short, sharp burst towards setting the grid for the second race and the deciding race of the 2017 championship. As there we can see in the background the Marco Wittmann car. Marco Wittmann, of course, he's current DTM champion, two-time champion. The engineers moving away from the car. There is Matthias Ekström. Both the Marco Wittmann and Matthias Ekström cars carrying the Red Bull liveries. There's Mike Rockefeller, who, when the session was stopped, was sixth fastest with a time of 1:30.895. Just 3/10 between P1 and P6 in terms of the lap times.
So rescheduling appointments, probably.
Yes, you're probably right. So there, the René Rast car. And the Jamie Green machine. In yesterday's race, of course, it was victorious for Jamie Green. It was his third win of the season. He'd won, of course, at Lausitzring and also here at Hockenheim in race 2 of the season. So Maxime Martin, Tom Blomqvist and Gary Pafford all lining up at the pit lane exit. Bruno Spengler was in there as well, and here comes the Jamie Green car right now. Being pushed out of the garage. DRS has altered this year as well, hasn't it, Alex, in that it was very much a mechanical DRS last year where you could see the whole wing dip down, whereas this year it's a flap across the wing, isn't it, that opens and closes. Much more akin, if you like, to what we see in Formula One.
Yeah, technical-wise, it's called this gurney flap, which is a small flap, the one which is closing and opening on the rear wing. And like you said, this year the new DRS. I think in terms of working, it works pretty similar in performance-wise. I mean, than the one last year. We see cars get quite a bit more speed when they have the DRS open. The rules is like always, you have a maximum of DRS that you are allowed to use during the race, and if you use it once per lap, you have 3. So you have 3 per lap. Once you use it once, you have to use all 3, or if you haven't,
lose them.
Or use them.
And there are only a certain number of laps, of course, where you have that DRS usage, which is why during the course of the race, you'll see on the graphics on the left-hand side of the screen, we will be able to tell you what DRS laps are available to each individual driver. But the other crucial thing is that can only be used within when you are within 1 second of a driver in front of you.
Yes, when you are within 1 second at the start-finish line, then you can use the DRS in the next lap.
So that effectively becomes the activation zone, doesn't it? That once you cross that and you are, you know, that's the point at which you need to be within 1 second, isn't it?
Exactly, you need to have the margin reduced to 1 second. When we see it's Bruno Spengler, the one waiting behind the light, will go green in the next few seconds. So 5 seconds.
Making his way out of the garage, and Bruno Spengler then in pole position then at the end of the pit lane as he goes now. Then it's Maxime Martin and Tom Blomqvist and Gary Paffett then, and the clock has restarted. We've got 10 minutes of this qualifying session, so the session was stopped almost exactly at half distance, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was exactly halfway through, so 10 minutes for everyone to set a lap time. I think we will see some drivers like Jamie Green or Matthias Ekström right now waiting a little bit that there is a little bit less traffic, because at the end of the day we think with 6-7 minutes of session to go, they will be able to set a lap time. I don't think they will have time to do 2 sets of time. Maybe the drivers which are now on the racetrack will try to go for this, but I don't know. I think maybe it's too tight.
Do you?
Especially not having tire warmers, they need a lap and a half to put those tires in the right temperature window. I mean, counting the out lap plus 1 fly lap to have the tires in the right temperature order. You see, everyone has now, for example, 5 laps on the record. So that means they did on the 4th lap is when everyone did his fastest lap. So there you see.
Well, the car's screaming into the stadium complex here with a couple of turns left to do, but those that are staying in at the moment include Matthias Ekström. You can see the car there. We also saw the René Rast car staying in as well. Is there an advantage to Bruno Spengler having chosen to go out almost straight away? And virtually every car that went out straight away is coming back into the pit lane, isn't it?
Yeah, looks like everyone came in right now, so they didn't out in for some reason. Maybe to clean a little bit the tires from before, or to check for something. We see it's only thing Marco Wittmann, the only one which passed our the start-finish line just in front of our commentary booth.
Augusto Farfus on his way out now. The rest of those drivers that went out early on have chosen to come in. Here comes Loic Duval. So Marco Wittmann, as I said, then he's about the only one that's out there at the moment. And Marco Wittmann then, 1:30.564 was the time that he set at the beginning of the, or certainly in the first half of the session. He'd completed 5 laps, I think, or maybe 6 laps, but Marco Wittmann, he's back out on track now with just 7.5 minutes of the session remaining. Here comes Mike Rockenfeller. Is there any advantage now, Alex, to being out on track and you've got a completely clear track ahead of you?
I mean, there will be not much difference on track condition between now and the end, so I think it could be quite positive to be now running out of traffic, and that might be a strategy of Marco Wittmann to be now in a completely clear racetrack.
Yes.
The only thing he must be having trouble is when he's finishing this lap to get into the traffic of cars coming out of the pit lane. This is the only trouble. If you are lucky and you can get away without chasing that traffic, this is really positive, but this is always a little bit a hard situation. Well, so let's see also how it's working the team radio communication.
At the moment, we've only got Mike Rockenfeller, Augusto Farfus, and Loic Duval as Marco Wittmann comes back into the pit lane once again with 6 3/4 minutes of the session remaining. Here comes Matthias Ekström now. And all of a sudden, the pit lane becomes quite a busy place. Nico Müller is on his way out as well. Here comes Matthias Ekström then. Prior to the session being suspended, Matthias Ekström was 7th fastest. Also out, I think it was the Maro Engel Mercedes-Benz that I could see. And we go on board with Matthias Ekström now as he... and also out now is René Rast, and Tom Blomqvist also returning out on track. So not only the pit lane, but also the track is going to become a very busy place now. Loic Duval then, and at the moment, touch wood, the drain appears to be holding up. Here comes Eduardo Mortara. Whatever hard work the team were doing on the Eduardo Mortara car, presumably they've got it done because he is back out on track now, ahead of his teammate Lucas Auer, who, may I remind you, was 4th fastest before the session was suspended. Mike Rockenfeller now, whose tyre temperatures will be up to speed, and he will try and find himself in clear air with no traffic to navigate ahead of him. He's got the René Rast car ahead of him now. So Parabolica, Mike Rockenfeller continuing to weave just a little bit. René Rast to make sure he gives him plenty of room. But all of a sudden the session is going to be over, isn't it? Only 5 minutes remaining. There's Marco Wittmann. There is the Tom Blomqvist car. And Mike Rockenfeller heavy braking, probably heavier than usual into the hairpin. Again, primarily the reason for that, as he almost brings the car to a stop, is to generate that temperature, isn't it? And the temperature that's generated from the brakes dissipates through the rims into the tyre, aiding that tyre warming process.
Yeah, and also he's managing his gap. He sees now coming traffic. He's trying to generate himself, he's on his own, a gap to have a clear lap on qualifying. But it's always really hard because if you brake too much, then you end up getting passed by some drivers. We saw, I think it was Gary Puffett passed him. He's now getting the position back, and now will be pushing in the last sector. No, he's slowing down, but you will be pushing, or you should want to push in the last sector that you are up to speed when you cross the start-finish line.
So absolutely, your momentum as you cross the timing line is as quick as it can be.
Yeah, it's not only when you cross the finish line. It's if you slow down too much in the last sector, all this work you've been doing to warm up the tires is lost.
Right.
So it's really good, and then you don't have the real rhythm. So if you are with only one lap, now we have 4 minutes, so they have more laps, more chance to do a lap. But if it's your last lap, your last chance, and you are trying to generate a gap, the best possibility will be that you can push on the last sector, so you, as a driver, are up to speed, the car is warm, the tires are warm, and you can have the best conditions possible to do a fly lap.
So there is Loic Duval then, PB through Sector 1 for Loic Duval in the number 77 car. Like René Rast, of course, Loic Duval, a rookie into the championship this year. Took a podium, of course, at Zandvoort. It's his best finish, that's for sure. So Loic Duval, who's perhaps arguably found it much, much harder in DTM than René Rast has. So he's done PBs in Sector 1 and Sector 2, but a PB for Loic Duval, bearing in mind that he was right at the bottom of the timing chart come the suspension of the session. So Loic Duval with one turn to do before breaking the timing beam. And Loic Duval does so now, and he improves one place, which is the point I was making, that actually PBs from Loic Duval, when you're at the back of the pack in any event, the incremental time betterment is not going to be enough, is it?
No, definitely, it's not what he needs to do in order to be in the top 5 or top 10 of the qualifying. But as I said, they just went out of the pit lane. They started to warm up the tires, get their position into the racetrack. So I'm sure still will take a little bit of time till we see some purple Sector 1. We see Lucas Auer making now PB Sector 1, who is now sitting in 4th position. Also, Nico Müller coming a really good Sector 1, PB in Sector 1 with 19.662. Gary Puffett doing the same. So now is when the drivers are really coming and building up to speed. And we have a little bit less than 2 minutes to go.
So with the lap times of 1:30.5s at the moment being the fastest lap times, once the clock has reached 1:30, unless you cross the timing line ahead, you're not going to get another lap in, are you?
So I think Matthias Ekstrom might be the last one. No, I don't think so. Now it's Nico Müller crossing the start-finish line. I think he will be the last one to get 2 laps.
Right.
Everyone else is on his last lap from now on.
Here comes Lucas Auer then, as you have said, PBs in Sector 1 and Sector 2. He was going from P4, and Lucas Auer heads towards the timing beam now. And, well, the last sector was not good enough. He doesn't improve.
Really good Sector 2. Marco Bindman crossing now the start-finish line, but he makes no improvement at all.
Tom Blomqvist now goes quickest with a 1:30.491. So Tom Blomqvist then, here comes Mike Rockenfeller. His sector 2 has been okay.
Gary Paffett, we see jump up to 4th position, improving a little bit his last lap time.
Oh, René Rast running wide. Adjusting that brake bias as we're on board. Jamie Green then.
Oh, a lot of oversteer, trying to... We see René Rast coming purple sector 1, really good sector 1 of René Rast now. So everyone is giving everything they have.
And this is the last chance, isn't it? So René Rast then, as you can see, purple in sector 1. Keep your eyes on Matthias Ekström. René Rast then 19.634 through sector 1.
So no one improving at the moment except René Rast sector 1, Lucas Auer sector 1, but sector 2 is quite okay.
Matthias Ekström has gone to P8, and it will be all over now for Matthias Ekström.
You are position 8 right now, some cars improving.
Lucas Auer goes to P3, and René Rast we're on board with now. This is going to be the lap to watch, because better than anyone through sector 1, PB in sector 2. René Rast has but a couple of corners to do. Here's Mike Rockenfeller heading towards the timing line. It was P11 for Mike Rockenfeller. But here comes René Rast then from P5. It's P2 for René Rast. Jamie Green now.
Really good sector 2, but not so good sector 1, losing 3/10 to the good. Yeah, P5.
P2 at the moment, P2, yeah.
So we hear live team radio, P2, yeah. So happy for René Rast. So Jamie Green is P5, Matthias Ekström is P10, so that means P15 for Matthias Ekström and P15, okay, for Jamie Green.
That was the error from Jamie Green then. Just pushing and carrying everything in terms of speed that he possibly could, and flying the car across the AstroTurf and the rumble strips as well.
So I think no one else on the racetrack now.
No, we're not going to see anyone else cross the timing line now. So the order is going to be Blomqvist, Rast, Wittmann, Auer. Jamie Green, who will actually, whilst he's done P5, he's got a 10-place grid drop, so he will be P15. Then it is Robert Wickens, Maxime Martin, Mike Rockenfeller, Augusto Farfus. Matthias Ekström was 10th fastest, and he gets a 5-place grid drop.
So it's P15.
Yeah. So
there will be a battle now for P15. So no, Jamie Green has a better lap time, so he will be P14.
And Eki will
be P15, or there will be P15 and 16. I think
yes,
P15 and 16. Sorry. So yeah, this will be the order. So even worse for Matthias, because he's not losing 5, so he's losing 6 positions.
Yeah.
So not looking good, but also interesting because both drivers will start close together.
Yes, yes.
So side by side.
But at the moment, you have to say, with regards to the Drivers' Championship, it's advantage René Rast. Mike Rockenfeller, P8, the best that he could deliver. So Mike Rockenfeller's car pushed back into the garage then, and there too is the car of Lucas Auer being pushed back into the garage, the number 22 car. And Matthias Ekström, and there is René Rast, a 1:30.555, which gives him P2 on the grid, and puts him into a, well, certainly advantageous position. There, confirmation of the qualifying. Blomqvist, Rast, Wittmann, then Auer, Green, Wickens, Maxime Martin, Mike Rockenfeller, Augusto Farfus, and then Matthias Ekström.
Yeah, and then another 2 points award for René Rast.
That's the other critical thing, isn't it? You know,
another 2 points for
Tom Blomqvist
René
picks up 3 points, doesn't he? René Rast picks up 2 points, and Marco Wittmann with 1 point.
Let's see if we get championship standings at the moment to see what's the gap now, but it's another 2 points for Rene. So this is playing in his hands at the moment.
So Lucas Au then walking down the pit lane.
Best Mercedes car in P4. So looks like he found some pace after yesterday, where I think he was starting P12, P13 was starting on the race. So.
At points in the season, Lucas Au has looked a real championship contender, hasn't he?
Yeah, he was starting really strong. Remember the Hockenheim last extremes were really good racing from him. Then he lost some pace. See Wolfgang Ullrich congratulating René Rast for the good job.
There's Jamie Green.
Talking on the radio with his engineer from the box about the setup and feelings with the car. Every driver going to wait.
Matthias Ekstrom, Maxime Martin, and Matthias and Mike Rockefeller then have a conversation. Matthias has been weighed, Mike still to be weighed. Robert Wickens making his way in, and Gary Paffett then on the scales, having a conversation with Mike Rockefeller. P11 for Gary Paffett. So there, Matthias Ekstrom. Wonder what's going through his mind now. 10th fastest means P15. Marco Wittmann, P3 for him.
He almost had the pole, but lost it in a few last seconds. On the side of Tom Blomqvist and René Rast, when we get some slow-mo.
Of the top three, and going from P3 on the grid, it will be the car of the two-time DTM champion, Marco Wittmann. He goes from P3. P2, and a very, very good grid position in terms of the championship and what will play out in the race. René Rast goes from P2 on the grid. And then the time of 1:30.491 was sufficient to give it to Tom Blomqvist, the pole position for the BMW driver Tom Blomqvist. So here comes the starting grid pre-penalties. Bear in mind, penalties still to be applied. Tom Blomqvist and René Rast will be going on the first row of the grid. Alex is with the second row.
Second row, we have Marco Wittmann, third position, fourth for Lucas Auers, best Mercedes on the classification.
And then we find Robert Wickens and Maxime Martin on the third row of the grid.
Fourth row on the grid goes on the way of Mike Rockefeller and Augusto Farfus.
To the next row, and we find the cars of Gary Paffett going from P9 and Timo Glock, who will be going from P10 on the grid.
Next row goes on the ways of Nico Müller starting P11 and Bruno Spengler starting P12.
To the seventh row right now, where we find Eduardo Mortara and Matthias Ekstrom, but bear in mind Matthias Ekstrom affected, of course, by the penalty.
And then championship contender Jamie Green starting side by side with Maro Engel on P16.
And then right at the back of the grid, it's Loic Duval and Paul de Resta, who was prevented from taking part in the second part of qualifying because of damage to his car. So the race is going to be red hot. Make sure you join it. From Alex and from me, for now, goodbye.